that what is not in current statute and what is necessary, you think, at this time?
Yes.
Thank you.
Representative Hennessy.
One of the things I'm a little hung up on is that in this literature that you have is, and I don't know if you thought about this, there's my question, but is the difference between correlation and causation, and for you to be saying, for example, that more children are going to be addicted to opioids if they don't see both parents. I'm concerned about that, and I wonder if you have, maybe in the rest of the research that you're putting here, perhaps there's something that shows more of a correlation or more of a causation in terms of what, yes, they're happier. I mean, I believe children are happier when they see both parents, and children are in general doing better when they are able to see both parents. I completely agree with you there. I think that there's a lot left out in terms of why judges make decisions about how much time children should be spending, including things having to do with drug abuse and substance abuse in general.
Yeah, so that actually is covered in the Berger study, and it talks about risk behaviors, and drug abuse is a risk behavior if you go with different definitions there.
How does it talk about it?
Risk
You'd like to
behaviors.
follow up?
I understand what risk behaviors are. I'm sorry. I didn't understand your.
So that there's a preponderance, so when you have children who are in a shared parenting, shared residential situations, have a lower risk to these risk behaviors, and those risk behaviors include drug addiction.
You can ask another question after Representative asks his.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm looking at this list, and I'm looking at item G, from the way it's written, and I have to say, it gives me pause for thought. Any other additional factors the court deems relevant, which is,
So I'm happy to modify that language if you think so. That is from the existing statute, just to be clear. That is in law today.
I understand that, but, may I follow?
Yes, you may have one follow-up.
Thank you. But the existing statute is not as specific as to the preceding list that this statute is. And I know it's not quite the right language, but would you be amenable to something that reads on the order of the court finding by preponderance of the evidence, any of the such as, okay, but not limited to. So it does leave it open at the end, but it's clearly instructive that you're looking for something on the same order of magnitude and character, and not just whatever jumps in over the transom.
So I would be amenable to a order of magnitude, because again, I'm trying to capture with abuse and neglect and interference and incarceration, the types of things that might be considered in that process. Which, by the way, are very precise, as opposed to, in the existing statute, any other factors the court deems relevant comes after a longer list of very vague kinds of concepts. So again, I'm already trying to narrow it down. But if you wanted to say, any of the additional factors the court deems to have, to rise to the same level of significance or something like that, if people are agreeable to that, I'm happy to do it. But I want to, again, I want to try and make sure that we protect, the right degree of judicial discretion, because there are circumstances where, it may or may not be warranted. So.
I understand.
Representative Hennessy. Anybody, Representative Frober?
Thank you. Thanks for taking my question. 2E talks about the ability and disposition of each parent to make joint decisions concerning the welfare of the child, foster a positive relationship, and as well as frequent and continuing contact with the other parent is shown by allowing and promoting such contact. Can you envision a scenario where the parents can't follow this positive outlook and proposal, but they may be able to actually carry out a shared parenting plan, and how do you envision dealing with that under this proposal?
So with this language, again, it lifts from E, and it's kind of E plus a combination of some of the other statutes in the existing statute was trying to tackle a hostile parent situation. You have a hostile parent.
You have two hostile.
You could have two, exactly. So we have at least one hostile parent. So this is trying to provide the judiciary some legs in the hostile parent situation. Is what this is what we specifically worked on in the discussion around this. So,
Where are they?
what's that? The
Where are
hostile
the
parent.
legs?
Well, I believe that they exist there because now we're basically looking for preponderance of evidence of these kinds of things for the court to weigh and say, like, I've got a hostile parent situation, so I'm gonna bring this stuff into consideration here, right?
Well, how does the court
Like to do a
accomplish,
follow-up, Representative?
follow-up, how does the
Sure.
court accomplish a shared parenting arrangement that is acceptable to the parents when the parents are hostile?
So the shared parenting is the beginning point, right? So maybe we're just not cracking the bill the way I'm thinking of it. So the shared parenting is the beginning point, and then the judge says, is there abuse? I might need to deviate off of that point of shared parenting, shared residential responsibility. Is there neglect? Might need to deviate off of this standard. Is there interference? Is there incarceration? Is there hostility, right? Maybe this is a factor that the judge says, need to deviate off of this, and with the rebuttable presumption, so that they can't go wandering and go any place that they want. But that's what I'm basically trying to say is, I'm trying to give the judge this hostility among the parents is a reason to consider deviation off of, you know, a shared parenting, shared residential responsibility.
Follow-up.
Yes.
I'm thinking in terms of a parent standing in front of the judge and saying, I hate her guts, but we are both good parents and we need to have a shared parenting relationship. The court needs to help us create that. Where is it?
So then I would think that if the judge gets that type of a testimony, then the judge is gonna say, clearly, this is a cooperative. I may hate my spouse, but clearly that, as you articulated that statement, the judge or the judiciary is gonna look at that and say, here's somebody who really wants to make it work. And so they're gonna help them construct that shared parenting responsibility. The hostile parent is the parent who skips the hearings, won't drop off the kid, becomes belligerent in terms of exchanges of children or some situation like that. You know, all those hostile types of situations that we've observed in this committee. The description that you've described to me is the conflict that exists, but your scenario is one that I think would be very amenable to the judiciary in the sense of like, great, I've got somebody who says, I'm hostile towards my spouse, but I'm willing to work and put together an appropriate plan for my family. So I think that's a good situation.
It exists.
Thank you, Representative.
Yeah.
Representative Ligny.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we all agree that promoting conflict is not good for kids and families. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Representative Long talked about moving the harm bar, if I remember correctly, you know. At what point is there harm? At what point does the state need to be involved? Abuse, neglect, I think we'd all agree. We have criminal code for those in statute, I think we'd agree there. I think what we're trying to do with this bill is provide better clarification of guidance for the court to reduce this discretion and maybe say, here's where the line is. It's not up here, you know, didn't like mom's dress, didn't like dad's tie, didn't like the way dad took Johnny to baseball, all these subjective things, but with more reasonable, like, look, there's harm. My question is, if we fix this conflict, if we promote more, for lack of a better word, harmony in divorcing New Hampshire families, is there a risk that we significantly hurt the economy? What I mean by that is, Justice Delaney has told us 80% of the docket in the New Hampshire courts are family law. So if we resolve a lot of this conflict in diversity litigation, do we put a lot of people out of work?
Well, you know, I think it's beyond the scope of my testimony to opine on the economic impact of this, but what I would say is that there are more productive things that citizens in New Hampshire can be engaged in than quarreling in the courts. And so I think that there are probably better opportunities for them to engage and benefit our state, so.
Thank you.
Representative Ingridson?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, have you, I mean, this sounds like it's coming uniquely out of New Hampshire, but have you seen other similar patterns in other states? Have you, I mean, obviously, we've seen it in Sweden and all that stuff. Is that in here? I haven't read the content of it, so is there other states referenced in this?
You know, I may be overstating this, but I will just state that from the research that I've gotten, I mean, this is kind of a universally understood that this shared parenting, shared residential responsibility is the best for the children at this, you know, that's what everybody will tell you. So, you know, there's no one out there arguing against that at this point in time, you know, in the academic world or in the psychology world or someplace like that, so.
Oh,
Thank you. Oh, sure. One
yeah,
follow-up.
conceptually, obviously, I completely agree with the values involved. I just wondered if there was boilerplate or if there was some model, Texas or some other state we might love or hate, well, that you actually looked at in any way.
I've looked at a lot of different statutes, actually, for most of the other states, and I find that, you know, making change is difficult, right? So to come in with a whole brand new statute, I think is gonna be a little bit more of a sea change. And so I think what this does is it puts us on footing, again, to move forward. So I'm taking what we have and I'm moving it in a positive direction. You know, it moves us in, it helps us to get to where we need to be. And so I think that this accomplishes that goal.
That's all. So, yes,
Does anybody else have a question before I allow more follow-up? Seeing no other questions, I'll allow you one more follow-up.
one of the things we do in this committee, as you know, is work on bills. So I'm not wanting general information, I want to actually know if you've seen one somewhere that might be something we could actually improve the bill with.
There are several good examples. There are several other states who have examples that are out there. Arizona, Texas, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
It's been a little while. I worked on this over the summer, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Are there
Thank
any further questions for Representative Blue? Thank you. You can either sit in the audience or in your seat, but no questions. Thank you. Next, I'd like to call on Diane Haley. You didn't say how much time you needed.
I'll probably, after this whole thing here, I think I'm gonna blow the whole family court committee out of the room. I'll probably need 15 minutes, if that's possible.
Could I actually go next, since that is my son out there, and why it's still kind of fresh in your head? I'd like to answer all your questions in like under 30 seconds with what I've got to tell you. Diane, do you mind?
Lady that I called
Do
to.
you mind?
No,
Can I
of
go
course
next?
I don't mind.
No, we're friends. Is that okay?
And Janet
Delfuco.
Del Fuco. And you asked for 10 minutes. Can you do it in less than 5?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for listening to my son. He insisted on coming today because he thought his statement could save other kids. I'm gonna tell you right now, this isn't gonna do a dang thing for me and my children or my ex-husband, okay? Me and my ex-husband have been over since 2006. I tried my hardest as a child of divorced parents in the early 70s. I am almost 50 years old. I'm not 30, I'm almost 50, so I'm a mature adult who had children very late in life. I decided when I split up, I was keeping divorce out of my family. It wasn't happening. My ex-husband went homeless in 2012 because his girlfriend kicked him out and because he made the bad choices with her that he made with me. He took a loan out of my house illegally, bought a mobile home, took the money and ran. My house went into foreclosure. Okay? I'd like to see added to that bill financial abuse, to be honest with you. Did I get angry? I'm an Italian redhead from Boston. My grandparents are right from Italy. What do you think? Angry wasn't the word that I got. I built my home. I've had 5 major back surgeries. I need another major back surgery. I have degenerative disc disease. Do I still work? Yes. Do I still maintain one of the most beautiful houses in the town I live in? Absolutely. Do I have a beautiful
handicapped
garden?
nurse.
Yes, and I'm a handicapped nurse. I work with disabled children and
Excuse me,
adults.
ma'am. There'll be no
She-
comments from
She missed
the,
an important part.
there'll be no comments until you're called to sit at the desk, sir.
I'll wait for them.
Thank you, sir. I
You're welcome.
appreciate that.
I know Mike too. He's been actually helping me in civil court, so he's a friend of mine also. I try to keep my divorce and my family separate. I had custody of my kids when he left for another woman in 2007. I had custody of my kids. I put myself through nursing school. I put myself through orthopedic school. I had a job. I raised my kids from 6 years and 8 years old, right up until they were 12 and 13. He took the money and ran and then decided he wanted my children and wanted to keep going with the money. I got angry, I'll admit it. I don't hold back my feelings. I do not go to court and act very nice in front of a judge that was very disobedient to me, because the minute that judge got disobedient to me, I gave it right back to him. For that, I lost my oldest son. I was told I'm a bad parent. A restraining order was put on me. I was told I needed counseling for my anger issues. I was told I was not allowed to see my son from that point on. I fought Judge Weaver for over 2 years on everything because my ex-husband kept taking me to court on frivolous stuff. And he was abusing me, but I was ignoring him. As a matter of fact, I just left civil court again because I'm still trying to get some of the money back and the money that he owes on my house before the house gets foreclosed. 2 days later, after leaving civil court and Judge Anderson did it, I got in the mail this, again wanting the restraining order reinstated to Judge Weaver. All over money. Financial abuse, I want added to this bill. The judge on his very final decision, after guardian ad litem reports and everything else, saying the kids need counseling, we need to get along, da-da-da-da-da-da. I tried to get along. I let him have a house, so he could live 3 blocks from me, so he could see his kids. What did it do? You have a 14-year-old that doesn't see his brother. The judge won't do anything about it. My ex-husband put blocks on all the phones. Does not let them communicate. These 2 boys used to be best friends. They now have nothing to do with each other. On the judge's final order, and I'm going to read it. I'm reading it. Specifically, it's clear that Mr. Goad has told Spencer many details of the divorce that should not have been discussed with Spencer. This shows that Mr. Goad has tried to manipulate Spencer to dislike his mother and it will remain with Mr. Goad. Me and my son fight. We fight like cats and dogs. My best friend is my little boy that I raised. We now can't even sit in the same room because he keeps protecting his father because his father keeps telling him what a bad person I am. I'm the bad person, I'm the bad guy. You want to know what the bad guy about me is now? I'm losing the house, I can't afford it any longer, a house that was only going to have a few more years paid off, and I'm taking my 14-year-old son this June, and we're moving to North Carolina and we're never coming back. You know why? Because I'm trying to keep my 14-year-old son sane. I don't want him to become addicted to drugs. He's a motocross racer. You're all going to see that name run around someday on the Supercross Superstars because he's going to the top because he's already been told he's too good to be in this state and too good to be around here. And the problem of his brother living 3 blocks away from him, 3 blocks, and doesn't get to see or hang out with them thanks to his father not ever allowing it, I'm not keeping my son here any longer. I go to bed every night crying my eyes out for the last 3 years because I am not allowed to see a child that I had, a child that I am not angry at, I am angry at his father. I was stupid for what I did. I should never have tried to keep the divorce and the family together. But on the same aspect of all of that, I also blame the judge. And I think you all need to start holding your judges more accountable than anything. Because you can write as many laws as you want, but if these judges aren't held accountable for the parents' actions, nothing's ever going to change. And you can actually see the whole entire story, because not only do I have everything listed on Mike Gill's Facebook page and all the videos, Senator Kevin Avard actually did an interview with me a couple months ago, and it spells it out from the very beginning to today, right now. And it's on Speak Up New Hampshire under Janet Delfuco. These laws are great. You need these laws. I should have the right to see my son. And as my son pointed out to you, he used to want to see his father. But they all saw each other all the time. But ever since all this has happened, and because these judges will not stand up and say enough, it all gets dissolved. And now I have 2 boys that practically hate each other.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for this And maybe the representative would like to be gentle, please.
Yes,
Don't
thank you.
be gentle, give it to me, I can
I
handle it.
understand, red hair, Boston,
You got it?
I got it, thank you. Thank you for your testimony, and quite frankly, I can tell you're upset, I would be too. My question is, you mentioned that you were diagnosed as needing anger management or something to that effect. I think everybody in your family probably was. Was that diagnosis by a doctor?
No,
Or was
a
that by
judge.
a judge who's a
I went to
lawyer?
a counselor, I showed her the whole file, she knew my whole story because I went to the same counselor that his ex-girlfriend went to, that he pulled the same stuff on me, so she already knew his whole past to another woman. And she laughed at me. She says, what am I supposed to do here?
Follow
She
up?
goes, I can't even take your money.
One following.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand. We've got judges, AKA lawyers, diagnosing people
Mm-hmm,
medically or mental health wise,
Yep.
that you need counseling and.
yeah, that I need counseling. And you know what I do for a living, like Mike Gilpat just told you, for the last 30 years, I work with the disabled population. My clients range anywhere from age to the woman that just came in with me that is totally behind me right now at 63 years old. I work with families that are about to break up because they've had disabled children and it becomes too hard. I counsel these families and say, listen, you gotta really, put everything, it's what I do. It's why I tried to keep the divorce out of my family. It didn't work because the judge is the one that kept us apart and is still keeping us apart.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any representative for,
Thank you. Thank you for taking my question.
Thank you.
Were you reading directly from a court order?
Yes, ma'am, you'd like to see it?
I would like to have copies of that distributed to the community, is that?
Yeah, that's fine. If you can tell me, like, if I can fax it to somebody and somebody else can make sure everyone gets it, or I can mail it, how do you want
Maybe
it?
if you could give it to the person who's the assistant from the committee and she could make copies. for it.
Yeah, who would that be? Who wants to take charge of this?
Representative King, could you possibly?
Yes, I'll just go get them made.
Oh,
Great,
thank you. But I have I have parties here, I have all kinds of things from all the different judges. I even have him saying my ex-husband, I am asking the court to suspend her parental rights and grant me full custody of my other son. This was all over a bank scam. I'll be honest with you. He took a loan out illegally from Grand State Credit Union, and because of it, they're foreclosing on my house, and they're put the loan on, and I'm going through the ringer. The only way I'm getting out of this right now is I gotta leave the state. And I gotta keep my son's motocross career going. That's why I want amendments added to this bill for financial abuse. I'll give you the whole file. I'll meet with any single one of you on a Wednesday. That's my day off, because I can really only do 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, because my body starts to break down. I will meet with any single one of you and hand you over this whole entire file. Or I can give you the file number. You go right down to Rockingham Superior Court and pull it up yourself. I have nothing to hide. Was I angry in those courtrooms? Oh, you have no idea. The very last hearing, that judge was slamming me so badly. I just looked at him, I started crying my eyes out as hard as I could. I closed that file and I turned around and walked out. And I said to him and my ex-husband at the exact same time, this will come back on you karma-wise. I am done with both of your abuse. And I left. I will not be abused by not one single judge in this state. I'm going through heck as it is. I'm not gonna deal with it with my court system when I was trying to be the better parent and keeping my ex-husband and my children's lives the best of my ability.
Thank you. Thank you. You have a question for Representative Long?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just for clarification, you're of the impression that if this bill were to pass, you would be sharing both boys with your ex and yourself?
I'm not gonna be sharing anything. At the end of June, I'm leaving to move to North Carolina. I'm not coming back.
Yeah, I'm trying to,
For other parents, I feel if this bill passes, it's gonna level the playing field for parents, but you also have to have your judges on board. There has to be accountability for your judges. But yeah, I think both parents, unless you're an abusive parent or you're a drug addict or you go to prison like was talked about before, absolutely, they shouldn't have the rights to their kids. But you know what? These judges need to do a better plan of action here and make sure that these children keep seeing each other and that the parents keep seeing each other. I don't want my son to stop seeing his father. It kills me. He's been without a father since he's 6 years old. I'm his mechanic at the motocross track. I'm the one that's keeping the mother and the father roll. I'm tired. I wanna sleep at night, and I can't. I am up at 11, 12 o'clock at night in the summertime, working on his dirt bike, getting him to the track, to try to keep some kind of normalcy in his life. Can I say my other son is as normal as him? Unfortunately, no, I cannot. Have I seen him? No. Have I heard really bad stories about what he's turning into? Yeah, I have. Is it breaking my heart? Absolutely. Will I talk about it here? No, I won't. But his father's effects are gonna play out on this child, and some little girl at some point is gonna be in grave danger because of that child and his father's actions. I, as a mother and as a child, from divorced parents, my parents did the exact same thing to me in the 70s. We didn't see each other. I never saw my mother. Did it have effects on me? Oh yeah, it did. I have huge trust issues. I have a lot of issues, and I just wanted to keep that away from my children, and you know what? It didn't work. And I blame the court system.
Thank you. Senator Whitson.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my question. To clarify Representative Long's question, do you feel if this law, as proposed with some amendments, to bring in financial abuse, if it had been the law in 2006, would you and your son's lives be substantially different?
Yeah, I think that the judge would have seen it differently. I would have been able to have gone after this whole entire case a lot differently, and I think I would have been able to have seen both of my children get along. I'll be honest with you, the reason I brought my son here today, I can live without my oldest son. It hurts, it kills me. But my two boys should not have to be not seeing each other. This is wrong. This is so wrong that these two children cannot see each other. And yeah, I think if financial abuse or any other thing was done and these judges absolutely did the right job, I think, yeah, everything would have been a lot different.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to know, does anyone want to, I don't know if you have access to the courts, do you want to know the case number in case you want to look it up? I'm okay with giving it to you. It's
We'll put it in
218.
the record.
Put it in the record. You got
This
case
is
number,
block in here. It's 218, 2010 DM 00064. You know by heart, I keep saying I played the lottery on that number. It's under Janet Delfuco Goode versus James Goode. The judge is Judge Weaver, and it's Rockingham Superior Court. And if anyone wants my phone number, I'd be more than happy to talk to you more about this. But I feel that every parent should have the right to see their kid unless it's something severe.
Thank you.
Representative Whitson, you have a follow-up.
One further question. Were all of your hearings held by a judge, or were any of them held by masters, or now we have marital referees?
That is a good question. I had 3 of them. I had one judge in the beginning for the first 2 hearings who was really upset. Then I had a magistrate who did absolutely nothing and made matters worse. And then I had Judge Weaver for the last year and a half, because they all got switched around.
Thank you. Anything further from the committee for this witness? Thank you very much for your testimony. I know
Thank you. And thank you
it
for
seems
listening
as
to
though
my
it's
son.
difficult, and I know that things are difficult for you. Thank you for
It's
sharing
okay.
your story.
If I can make a difference for the next generation that's living in the state, today was well worth it. So thank you for hearing me. If anybody has any questions, please, you're more than welcome to get a hold of me.
Diane, 10 minutes good?
10 minutes, yes, sure. Am I before the family court committee?
No.
Oh,
So we're children family law, yeah.
We're children, family
so
law.
all of you here are representing the children in the state of New
Family,
Hampshire.
family.
Child and family law in the state of New Hampshire, correct? You should all be aware of what's going on in the family courts,
Yes.
right? Representative Ligny, I'm gonna start off here and then I'm gonna get into my story. You mentioned what would happen to the economy of New Hampshire if parents were allowed to love their children. And let me assure you, I had a hard time staying in my seat. All of you are aware of the corruption. The reason why the state of New Hampshire does not have shared custody is, guess what? They can't profit from it. The state of New Hampshire, in order to receive federal funding under Title 4D, corruption, they must name a non-custodial parent and a custodial parent. That is where the problem lies. They are destroying families, they are destroying lives. Talk about the heroin problem, you have no idea. I see my children going that route because they have had to live without their mother, and I have had to live without my children. And I need probably a couple of hours of your time, but I'm not leaving here until I impact you. I have been to the U.S. Attorney many times, they won't see me. I have been to the criminal chief, Donald Feet, he won't see me. I have been to the FBI and had personal meetings with them. They have been totally on board with the white-collar corruption occurring in this state. Then, when they bring it forward to Donald Feet, he squashes them. I have been to the county prosecutor, Dennis Hogan, numerous times. I have been to the New Hampshire governor. I have been to the New Hampshire AG. I have been to the National Police. I have been to everyone, including Mike Gill. I've spoken to Frank by email. I've spoken to Kim by email. I am doing everything. I've already lost my life. I have to, every day I have to find a purpose for me to live after what I have suffered through in the National Family Courts. Do you understand me? So the parents who are committing suicide out there, it's real. It's real pain and suffering, and unless you're a victim of this, you have no idea what I'm talking about. I have been 4 years in the family court system fighting for the protection of my children. I am a parent who found out my husband was molesting my daughter. Get it? Federal crime, incest. I had more insurmountable evidence in my 4-day trial, of which I was a pro se litigant. You would fall off your chairs. Do you know what the National Court did? Because I was a victim of domestic violence and a loving, protective, fit, stable, loving mother who could positively influence my children's lives, they awarded sole custody to the father. And let me tell you why, because I have made it my passion in life that until the last breath I take on this earth, I am fighting for all the children and all the parents who come behind me. Because my life is ruined. I don't even want to live anymore without my children. So the whole problem in the state of New Hampshire and in every other state, that if all of you sit on the family court committee, I am appalled that you don't know that in every state there are federal RICO suits. There are parent protests. They're protesting every day in Washington. How can you not know this and represent child and family law in this state? How can you not know that fit, loving parents are being removed from their children are being removed from their lives? I'm not understanding. It's happening in every state, and it's being covered up. Well, I'm going to expose it, and you know what? My life is at risk. The FBI said to me, the minute you walked into this office, Diane, your life was at risk. And guess what happened? The following morning, I had a wrench drilled into my tire. I have been silenced by Judge Intricasso at family court, and she has arrested me. As a fit, loving mother who's never done anything wrong, who's been a registered nurse for the Department of Veterans Affairs for 30 years, who's loved her children more than anything, she cuffed me, shackled me, and threw me in jail. While my